Hello, my name is Michael Reed, and I run a channel that has recently become a cult favorite among horror and mystery enthusiasts. Every week, I venture into the creepiest places to share their stories and show you what lurks in the darkness and shadows. This project is not just a job for me. It's my life. Today, I want to share an announcement that will make your heart race. Soon, I will be heading to one of the scariest places I have ever heard of, the old St. Mary's Psychiatric Hospital, located on the outskirts of Willow Creek, Massachusetts. St. Mary's was closed over 60 years ago, and since then, there have been rumors of strange and unexplained phenomena occurring there at night. People living nearby tell stories of eerie screams and ghostly figures seen through the broken windows. The hospital's history is full of dark secrets and tragic events, and I intend to uncover them for you. Prepare yourselves because in the coming days, we will venture into this sinister place together. I will bring cameras, flashlights, and all the necessary equipment to capture every detail and not miss a single moment. We will walk through the corridors, peek into the wards, and discover what lies behind doors that may not have been opened in a long time. Follow my channel, subscribe, and don't miss this thrilling journey into the heart of a nightmarish place. True horrors await us, and I'm ready to share them with you. See you soon at St. Mary S, my friends. I hope you're ready for what we'll find there. After finishing the recording, I turned off the camera and exhaled with relief. Everything was going smoothly. My viewers would get exactly what they were expecting, and I would take another step toward my big success. St. Mary's was brought to my attention by my acquaintance Jake. He stumbled upon one of my videos and decided to help me with an idea for my next video. "Dude, this place is really creepy. If anything happens to you, don't blame me. I warned you," he said, and there was genuine concern in his voice. I was skeptical of his words, but did some research anyway. It turned out that St. Mary's indeed had a dark history, but such stories don't scare me. Ghosts, vampires, werewolves, all nonsense made up by people to instill fear. I'm used to darkness and scary stories. It was time to start preparing. Grabbing my backpack, I began carefully packing everything I needed, checking each item twice. There were a few hours left until evening, and the road to Willow Creek would take some time. I needed to hurry. After preparing everything, I quickly grabbed a bite to avoid distractions from hunger during the shoot. I checked the route on the map to avoid unnecessary delays. The closer it got to departure time, the more I felt a slight excitement. Throwing on my jacket and grabbing my car keys, I took one last look at the equipment list, making sure I hadn't forgotten anything. I loaded my gear into the car's trunk, ensuring it was securely fastened so nothing would fall out during the journey. Once I was sure everything was in place, I got behind the wheel and started the engine. The road to Willow Creek began with the busy streets of my hometown. I drove onto the I-95, which stretched along the Atlantic coast, past dense forests and small towns in New England. In the evening twilight filtering through the thick trees, the highway seemed like an endless ribbon leading into the unknown. After about an hour of driving, I turned onto a narrower road that led deeper into the state. As I approached Willow Creek, the landscape became wilder and more desolate. In the distance, I saw the silhouettes of old barns and abandoned houses, each looking like a scene from an old horror movie. Driving through the small town of Deerfield, where time seemed to have stood still, I crossed the Connecticut River via an old bridge. Here, the road became increasingly winding and narrow. The sky began to darken, and only my car's headlights illuminated the path. The forest surrounding the road seemed impenetrable. and the tree branches leaning over the road created the feeling of driving through a tunnel. Finally, I arrived in Willow Creek, a quiet town hidden among the hills and forests of Massachusetts. The narrow streets and old buildings created an atmosphere of abandonment and tranquility. In the town center stood an old church with a bell tower, reminiscent of times long gone. St. Mary's Psychiatric Hospital was located on the town's outskirts. Turning onto Willow Street, I saw it, a massive building hidden behind thick overgrowth and a high metal fence. Stopping the car in front of the entrance, I turned off the engine and sat in silence for a moment. In front of me loomed the ominous silhouette of the hospital, seemingly frozen in anticipation. The old brick walls were covered in ivy and moss, giving the hospital the appearance of an abandoned castle. The windows, broken and boarded up, looked at me with empty eyes through which the wind whistled lightly inside. The scale of the place was overwhelming. 3 floors of dark corridors and wards, each holding its own stories and secrets. The main entrance was adorned with massive oak doors. The old metal gates, half covered in rust, stood slightly ajar, as if inviting me to enter. I sighed, realizing that a challenging night lay ahead. As I pulled the equipment from the trunk, I couldn't help but think of those who once lived here. Fragments of Jake's stories surfaced in my memory. Screams, ghosts, locked doors that opened on their own. But I was here to show that these were just legends. Gathering everything I needed, I approached the main entrance. Setting up the cameras on tripods, I carefully checked the angles to capture as many details as possible. They had to record every sound, every shadow, so that viewers could judge for themselves what was happening here. With a handheld tripod and a small camera mounted on it, I set up the equipment for live streaming. The flashlight in my other hand cast trembling beams of light on the walls and floor, creating strange shadows. I started the stream and looked into the lens, trying to appear confident. Hi, everyone. This is Michael Reed, and we're standing at the threshold of St. Mary's Psychiatric Hospital. As I promised, tonight we'll spend the night in this abandoned place, full of mysteries and secrets. St. Mary's history is filled with horrors and tragedies, and I'm ready to share this night with you. But before we enter, I'll tell you a scary story. St. Mary's was founded in 1924 as a refuge for people with mental illnesses. Back then, no one knew that within a few decades, it would become one of the most notorious places in Massachusetts. The first years, the hospital functioned as a regular medical facility. Doctors and nurses worked here, striving to help their patients. But everything changed in 1952, when the first of a series of strange and horrific incidents occurred. In the fall of that year, one of the patients, a young man named Jacob Morris, suddenly disappeared. His ward was found completely destroyed. Furniture overturned, walls and floors covered in deep scratches. Jacob was never found. A few weeks later, another patient, a woman named Alice Harper, was found dead in her chair. Her body was covered in numerous ragged wounds, as if she had been torn apart by a wild animal. The hospital's doctors and staff were shocked, not understanding how such a thing could happen inside a well-guarded building. At night, strange sounds began to echo in St. Mary's corridors. Dull thuds, rustling, and eerie howls. Patients and staff started reporting seeing figures in the shadows that could not belong to a human. Many of those who worked the night shift claimed to hear footsteps, heavy breathing, and sometimes even growling emanating from dark corners and empty rooms. With each passing month, the fear among staff and patients grew. New disappearances and strange deaths began occurring in the hospital. People saw shadows flitting past windows, heard screams coming from empty rooms. Some patients claimed they were attacked by something they couldn't fully see but could only feel. Cold breath on their skin. Sudden movements in the dark. The hospital administration tried to cover up these incidents, attributing everything to the madness of the patients. But among the staff, rumors spread about some kind of beast lurking in the hospital. More and more people began to believe that these were not mere coincidences, but something more sinister dwelling within the walls of St. Mary's S. All these strange occurrences reached their climax in 1953 when the hospital was suddenly closed. The official version stated that the closure was due to funding issues and the deteriorating condition of the building. But those who worked there knew the true reason was far more terrifying. They left, abandoning St. Mary's and its dreadful secrets and unsolved mysteries. Now I am here, among these walls, trying to understand what really happened in this place. Perhaps tonight will provide us with answers to many questions. So stay with me, and let's try to uncover the mysteries of St. Mary's together. Finishing my speech, I approached the massive oak door leading into the building and tried to open it. But it was locked with a rusty old padlock. This was not unexpected, considering how many years this place had stood abandoned. I looked around, holding the camera on a handheld tripod to continue the live stream. "Looks like the main entrance is a no-go," I said, addressing my viewers. "But don't worry, there's always another way in." I circled the building, shining my flashlight on the windows, and soon found one that was broken. The glass was already gone, leaving only sharp shards around the frame. I carefully moved them aside, trying not to cut myself, and climbed inside, continuing the stream. And here we are, inside, I continued as my feet touched the dusty floor. Let's see what awaits us. I found myself in a small room that likely once served as a service corridor. Narrow walls, peeling paint, and the marks of time were everywhere. Dust rose in clouds with each step I took. I headed towards the door at the end of the corridor and gently pushed it open. It creaked loudly, and I found myself in the hall. The hall was spacious, with a high ceiling and remnants of once majestic stucco. Debris from furniture, broken glass, and trash were scattered everywhere. Old leather chairs, covered in thick layers of dust, lined the walls as if waiting for their long-gone occupants. In the center of the room stood a massive wooden table with old magazines and newspapers, yellowed with age. Several portraits on the walls depicted doctors and the hospital's founders, their faces looking eerie in the light of my flashlight. "And here's the hall of St. Mary S," I said, panning the camera around to show my viewers the scene. Once, this place welcomed patients, administered treatments, and perhaps even saved lives. Now it's a haven for ghosts of the past. Standing in the hall, I continued the stream, showing my viewers every corner of this eerie place. On the central table, I noticed a stack of old medical records and journals. I picked up one of the records, carefully leafing through the pages covered in dust and yellowed by time. "Check this out, folks," I said, holding the record closer to the camera. It mentioned strange symptoms in patients: nightmares, hallucinations, sudden fits of rage. These aren't just ordinary mental disorders. I flipped through the records, finding more entries describing mysterious and frightening symptoms. The journals contained articles by doctors discussing these anomalies and their possible causes. I continued my exploration and pointed the camera at the walls and doors. In the light of the flashlight, deep scratches and signs of struggle became visible. "Folks, take a look at this," I said, showing the viewers the scenes on the walls. Deep scratches as if someone or something was trying to break free. And these signs of struggle, they're everywhere. I walked along the wall, carefully examining each detail. The doors also bore claw marks, reminding me of an inhuman force that dwelled here. These scratches couldn't have been made by ordinary people. This is clearly something more powerful and wild. Taking a few more steps, I stopped in front of one of the doors, which was particularly damaged. See this door? It's completely torn apart. Someone was really desperate to get out of here. It's incredible. I continued recording, trying to keep my voice calm and confident. But even for me, someone used to creepy places. These deep scratches and signs of struggle were slightly unnerving. Maintaining the stream, I cautiously walked through the broken door. The next room was in chaos. Dusty remnants of old furniture were scattered everywhere, broken tables and chairs littering the floor. In one corner stood a long dead lamp covered in cobwebs. Along the walls hung cracked posters with medical diagrams and instructions. On one of the tables, covered in a thick layer of dust, I noticed an old, yellowed photograph. "Folks, look at this," I said, picking up the photograph and showing it to the camera. "It's a picture of a group of doctors. It's signed Project Beast with the date 1952. It looks like these were the people conducting experiments here." Feeling a growing sense of excitement, I continued examining the room. My viewers were intrigued, and I knew I couldn't stop there. Carefully inspecting the space, I noticed a door with a sign that read, "Research Laboratory." It was locked, and I couldn't open it. "We can't get through here, the door is locked," I commented, showing the sign to the viewers. "But I'm sure there's something important inside." Without wasting time, I began checking the desks in the adjacent room. One of them was slightly ajar, and I decided to check the drawers. In one of them, I found an old, dusty key card. "It looks like we've struck gold," I said, holding the key card up to the camera. "This might help us unlock the laboratory door." Using the found key card, I carefully opened the door marked Research Laboratory. Continuing the stream, I stepped inside and found myself in a dark room filled with the smell of old metal and dust. The beams of my flashlight revealed rows of shelves lined with empty and broken test tubes. Old medical instruments, rusty and lost in the chaos, were scattered everywhere. I panned the camera around the room, showing my viewers all these eerie details. "And here we are in the lab," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Look at these test tubes and instruments. They haven't been used in ages, but once, experiments were conducted here." On one of the tables, I noticed a stack of old documents and journals. Moving closer, I began flipping through them, trying to find something significant. Soon, my attention was caught by one journal that stood out from the rest. Its pages were filled with doctors' notes describing the experiments they conducted. "Folks, this is incredible," I continued, holding the journal up to the camera. "It describes experiments with a serum supposedly capable of curing mental disorders. But judging by these notes, the serum caused something far more terrifying: beastly transformations." I slowly turned the pages, reading aloud the most frightening excerpts. The doctor's notes described how patients subjected to the serum began exhibiting strange and aggressive behavior. Each day their condition worsened, and soon they became more like wild animals than humans. According to these records, the doctors tried to hide the consequences of their experiments, I said, feeling the rising tension transmitted to my viewers. But everything spiraled out of control. This explains the scratches and signs of struggle we saw earlier. Each page of the journal added new details to the horrific events that took place in St. Marius. I realized these experiments could be the reason behind all the strange and eerie occurrences that were rumored. This place indeed holds many secrets and terrifying stories, I concluded, setting the journal aside. And we are on the brink of uncovering one of the most horrifying secrets of this hospital. As I continued through the laboratory, I noticed a large safe in the corner of the room. Its door was slightly ajar, and the lock had clearly been tampered with. I moved closer and cautiously opened it to see what was inside. "Folks, take a look at this," I said, pointing the camera at the safe. It seems someone has already tried to get to the contents of this safe. Inside, I found several folders and documents, many of which were heavily damaged by time. Among them was one folder that stood out labeled Jacob Morris. I carefully pulled it out and began examining its contents. "These are documents about a patient named Jacob Morris," I commented. "According to the records, he was subjected to the experiments and then disappeared. Here, his symptoms and behavior after receiving the serum are described in detail." The doctor's records detailed how Jacob's condition deteriorated after the experiments began. He became increasingly aggressive and uncontrollable, and his body began to undergo strange changes. Eventually, one of the records mentioned his sudden disappearance from a locked ward, causing panic among the doctors. "This is just incredible," I said, showing the records to the viewers. "It seems Jacob Morris was one of the first patients subjected to these horrific experiments." As I studied the documents, my eyes fell on a map at the bottom of the safe. I pulled it out and unfolded it. It was a blueprint of the hospital's basement floor, with several rooms marked. "So we have a map of the basement floor," I continued. "It looks like the most secret experiments took place down there. We need to head down and find out what's hidden in these basements." With the map in hand, I began following the path marked on it. Leading the stream, I carefully looked around, trying not to miss any detail. Soon I found the corridor indicated on the map, leading to the basement. The door at the end looked massive and old with visible rust marks. "Here it is, the way to the basement," I said, showing the door to the viewers. "It looks like it hasn't been opened in years." I tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. Applying more force and pushing hard, I finally heard the old hinges creak, and the door slowly began to open. "It looks like we're in," I commented, taking the first step inside. "Get ready for what we might find down there." Descending the narrow, steep staircase, I directed the flashlight downward, illuminating the steps and walls. With each step, I noticed more signs of struggle. Deep scratches on the walls and steps, dark stains that could have been blood. "Just look at this," I said, showing the viewers the eerie details. Terrible things clearly happened here. The corridor I was walking through was narrow and grim, lit only by my flashlight. The shadows from every movement seemed ominous, and the sounds echoed off the empty walls. I noticed traces on the floor and walls indicating a fierce struggle, pieces of cloth, tufts of fur, and bloodstains. "These marks couldn't have been made by ordinary people," I continued, holding the camera steadily. "This might be evidence of those beastly transformations we read about." As I descended further, I began to feel the cold air enveloping me. The surroundings grew quieter, with only the sound of my footsteps and my breathing breaking the dead silence. With each step, the tension mounted, and I realized that ahead might lie answers to all the questions, but also new horrors. "We're almost there," I said, as the stairs finally ended, revealing a long corridor with several doors. According to the map, The most secret rooms are here. Walking down the basement corridor, I started noticing old metal cages and isolation cells for patients. These places were meant for the most dangerous or unruly patients, and their condition only confirmed that. The doors of the cells were covered in deep scratches, and dark stains on the floor and walls hinted at possible blood. "Guys, look at these cells," I said, directing the camera at the gruesome details. These places were clearly used to hold patients who were dangerous to themselves and others. As I passed by one of the cells, I noticed that its door was slightly ajar. Cautiously pushing it open, I stepped inside. It was dark and cold. On the floor lay scraps of clothing and tufts of fur. In the corner, I spotted an old, tattered notebook. Picking it up, I saw that it was a diary. "There's something here," I said, showing it to the viewers. "This is Elizabeth Watson's diary. Let's see what she wrote." I began reading the diary aloud, illuminating its pages with my flashlight. October 15th, 1952. Today we admitted a new patient, Jacob Morris. The doctors say he volunteered for an experiment with a new serum. No one says what it does, but the atmosphere is tense. October 20th, 1952. Jacob is behaving strangely. He's become aggressive and unpredictable. The doctors say it's a temporary side effect of the treatment, but his screams at night are unsettling. October 25th, 1952. Heard horrible noises from his cell last night. It sounded like a beast roaring. Checked in the morning. The door is covered in scratches. Jacob says he remembers nothing. October 30th, 1952. Today, Jacob attacked a doctor. He was moved to isolation. I saw his eyes. They looked like a beast's. He was growling and trying to break free. This is not a man, it's a creature. November 3rd, 1952. The doctors say the experiment is out of control. Jacob has turned into a beast. He tore another patient apart. We're all scared. There are fewer doctors now. November 10th, 1952. Jacob disappeared. No one knows how he got out of the cell. We hear him at night. He roams the corridors and his screams are getting closer. It's not safe here. November 15th, 1952. I'm the only one left. Everyone else either ran away or died. I hear him now. He's near. If someone finds this diary, no, don't come here. He's still here. I froze, closing the diary and surveying the dark cell. The nurses' descriptions were horrifying and detailed, giving a clear sense that Jacob Morris had indeed transformed into something inhuman, a creature that continued to haunt these corridors. "This is unbelievable," I said, feeling a chill down my spine. "This diary confirms our worst fears. The doctors created something horrific, and this creature might still be here." After reading, I felt a cognitive dissonance. I couldn't understand if someone was playing a prank on me. Perhaps my friend had planted all these things, or was I being watched by a hidden camera? In all my career, I had never encountered anything like this. But what if the diary was true? I had seen the marks that might confirm these records. I thought to myself, is this place dangerous? Should I leave? I pulled out my phone and checked my stream. I saw numerous comments and a rapidly growing number of views. This was a success, and it motivated me to continue, despite the fear growing inside me. "Guys, this is just incredible," I said on the stream. "I can't stop now. We need to uncover the whole truth about what happened here." Gathering all my resolve, I continued exploring. As I moved further down the corridor, I noticed something unusual. A small cabinet standing flush against the wall. It looked out of place, as if it had been put there to hide something. I cautiously moved it and discovered a small door behind it. "Look at this," I said, showing the hidden door to the viewers. "This looks like a secret entrance. We need to check it out." Carefully opening the door, I entered a small room that turned out to be an office. On the table were papers, old photographs, and several torn diary fragments. I approached the table and began examining the diary fragments. They were the records of the chief doctor, detailing the history of the experiments and their catastrophic results. September 1st, 1947. My name is Dr. Thomas Edwards, Chief Physician at St. Mary's Psychiatric Hospital. My career began at Harvard Medical School, where I specialized in neuropsychiatry. After graduation, I worked at various medical institutions, studying the nature of mental illnesses and the possibilities for their treatment. February 10th, 1949. Inspired by the research of Dr. Ernst Schaefer, conducted in the 1930s in Germany, I decided to find a way to treat mental disorders using a serum. Schaefer claimed that animal instincts could be used to strengthen the human mind. His work on the effects of hormones on animal behavior was revolutionary and gave me the idea for my own research. June 20th, 1950. I turned to the work of Dr. Stanislav Brzezinski, who studied the effects of animal hormones on human behavior. His research showed that certain compounds could enhance instinctive reactions. Brzezinski discovered that extracts from the animal pituitary gland, such as adrenocorticotropic hormone, could significantly affect human behavior. October 1st, 1952. I received a research grant from the National Institute of Mental Health. My goal was to develop a serum that could not only suppress mental disorders, but also use the body's internal reserves to treat them. My colleagues at St. Mary's supported my idea, and we began work. October 5th, 1952. We began developing the serum based on Brzezinski and Schaefer's data. The formula included extracts from animal pituitary glands, stimulating the production of adrenaline and other hormones affecting aggression and instincts. We believed this approach could open new horizons in treating severe mental illnesses. October 10th, 1952. Initial animal trials of the serum showed promising results. We observed significant improvement in cognitive functions and a reduction in symptoms of depression. However, there were also side effects such as increased aggression and altered behavior. Despite the risks, we decided to continue our research. October 15th, 1952. It was decided to start human trials. The serum was supposed to help patients with severe mental disorders. We believed that controlled application could bring positive results. It was a risk, but the potential for success seemed significant. October 25th, 1952. Results started to manifest. Patients showed improvement in behavior, but aggressive tendencies also increased. We tried to minimize doses, but it didn't always help. All this time, I felt that we were on the brink of a major discovery, but also on the edge of a precipice. October 30th, 1952. Complications began to escalate. I saw changes in the patients that I couldn't explain. Each day, it became more evident that the serum had not only therapeutic but also transforming effects. I began to doubt the rightness of our path, but it was too late to turn back. November 5th, 1952. It's a disaster. All our attempts to fix the situation failed. I see that the experiment has failed. I take full responsibility for all the deaths and destruction caused by my actions. I cannot live with this burden on my conscience. Let my mistakes serve as a warning to others. I got chills from reading this. Damn, could this all be true? When I finished reading aloud, I pulled out my phone and checked the stream. The comments were exploding. Most of them said, "Dude, get out of there!" Or, "Do you think he'll survive? Place your bets?" Reading these messages and seeing my numbers soar, I realized things were going well and I had to keep going. The viewer's attention was at its peak, and it motivated me to move forward despite the growing fear. I noticed a small door at the end of the room. I approached and opened it. To my horror, I saw a closet inside, and in the middle hung a skeleton suspended by the neck. I recoiled in shock, still filming. "Holy crap," I whispered, realizing I really needed to get out of here. I started making my way to the exit when I suddenly heard a loud crash and a growl. Turning around, I saw something big and menacing in the shadows. My heart raced faster. The shadow stepped into the light and I finally understood. It was a werewolf. A huge creature with a muscular body covered in thick dark fur. Its eyes glowed in the darkness, and its claws and teeth were enormous and sharp. "Oh my God, it really exists!" I shouted into the stream, keeping the camera on the werewolf. The werewolf lunged at me. I managed to grab a metal pipe lying nearby and struck it hard on the head. The beast recoiled, growling in pain. This gave me only a few seconds. I ran down the corridor trying to find the exit as quickly as possible. The werewolf chased me, and its heavy steps echoed through the empty halls. My heart pounded furiously, and I knew I only had moments to escape. I noticed a small room to the side and without hesitation dashed inside. Quickly entering, I quietly closed the door behind me. My breath was ragged and my heart pounded in my ears. Hiding in the corner of the room behind an old table, I tried to control my breathing to avoid giving myself away. My lungs were gasping for air, and I realized that any movement could be fatal. Suddenly, I heard the werewolf approach the door. Its heavy breathing and growling were clearly audible. It walked past, but then stopped as if it sensed something. For a moment that felt like an eternity, it stood at the door, its shadow flickering in the narrow gap. I held my breath, trying not to make a sound. The werewolf looked around, its claws scraping the floor, creating a horrifying sound. My heart was beating so loudly that it seemed the werewolf would hear it any moment. After several agonizing seconds, the beast growled again and moved further down the corridor. I slowly exhaled, realizing how incredibly lucky I was. Sitting in the corner of the room, I looked around and noticed old medical instruments and chemicals on the shelves. Deciding that I needed something for protection, I began gathering materials to make an improvised weapon. "I need something to protect myself," I whispered to the stream, showing the viewers my actions. I found a bottle of alcohol that hadn't evaporated over the years, likely because it was sealed, and several glass flasks. Using the medical instruments, I carefully mixed the chemicals, creating an incendiary mixture. It smelled horrible, but it should burn well. It was a crude Molotov cocktail with medical elements that intensified the ignition. "This should work," I said, finishing my improvisation. "I hope this will stop it, even if just for a while." Taking several deep breaths, I decided to leave the room. Quietly making my way down the corridor, I tried not to make a sound. My heart was racing, and each step felt like an eternity. Suddenly, I heard a rustling behind me. Turning around, I saw the werewolf slowly stalking me. Its eyes glowed in the dark, and I realized I had no time to think. "Damn, it's here," I whispered into the camera, feeling fear paralyze every movement. The werewolf suddenly lunged at me. I quickly lit the mixture and threw it at the beast. The flask shattered, and flames instantly engulfed it. The werewolf roared in pain and fury, burning brightly. Without wasting a second, I ran toward the exit. Most windows were boarded up, and I frantically searched for a way out. Behind me, the roars and growls of the enraged werewolf echoed. Finally, I found an unboarded window. Running to it, I broke the glass and managed to jump outside. Only then did I realize I was on the second floor. I fell, not even having time to comprehend how I ended up on this level. The impact with the ground was hard. I felt a sharp pain in my leg and screamed, realizing I had probably broken it. "Damn my leg," I screamed, lying on the ground trying to cope with the pain. Lifting my head, I saw the werewolf in the window looking down at me. Its eyes burned with rage, and it was clearly preparing to jump after me. I thought it was the end for me. But suddenly, I heard the sound of police sirens on the road. It was like a last-minute rescue. How did they get here? I whispered to myself. Then I remembered. Maybe one of the viewers had called the police. I was incredibly grateful for that. Looking up again, I saw the werewolf already halfway out the window. I started crawling, trying to save myself, when I heard a dull thud. It had landed on the ground not far from me. Turning my head, I saw the beast slowly creeping toward me. It was wounded and covered in burns, but still dangerous. I thought it was the end when suddenly shots rang out and police shouting ensued. "What the hell is that?" one of the officers shouted, continuing to fire. The gunfire continued, and each shot caused significant damage to the creature. The werewolf howled in pain and eventually ran off, leaving a trail of blood. "Clear, clear!" one of the officers shouted, running up to me. "Are you okay?" I felt several pairs of hands lifting me. The pain in my leg was unbearable, but the realization that I was saved brought relief. "Yeah, but I think my leg is broken," I mumbled, feeling myself being carefully carried to the car. The officers called for medics, who quickly arrived on the scene. They carefully stabilized my leg, applied a splint, and gave me painkillers to ease the pain. All the while, I tried to process what had happened. "How did you know?" I asked as they carried me to the ambulance. "Someone called us with the address, saying a person was in danger," the officer replied with a smile. "But what the hell was that thing?" he asked. I just nodded. Soon I was loaded into the ambulance, and I felt the pain begin to subside thanks to the administered medicine. My thoughts were still scattered, but I felt grateful and relieved. At the hospital, they took X-rays, confirming the broken leg. The doctor set it in a cast and ensured I had no other serious injuries. The police stayed with me the entire time, trying to offer support. "You're one lucky guy," one of them said, sitting next to me. "Not many can say they survived an encounter with a creature like that." "Yeah, I still can't fully believe it," I replied, feeling a mix of exhaustion and relief. "Thank you for everything. I don't know what I would have done without you." The officers told me they would continue investigating the case and that all the footage from my stream would be reviewed to determine all the circumstances. Finally alone in the hospital room, I remembered the stream. Pulling out my phone, I addressed the viewers. "Guys, thank you for being with me tonight. Thanks to you, I'm here and safe. I'm ending the stream here, but I promise to come back with new stories. Be careful and take care of yourselves." Ending the stream, I placed the phone on the table and realized how lucky I was. I was alive, despite all the horrors I had faced. Closing my eyes, I tried to sleep, knowing this night had changed my life forever.